Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Kalika and you're going to be nicer to call center staff after watching this video. Our first story comes from our very own Jen Burton, a subscriber, patron, friend, and one of the nicest people I've had the pleasure of talking to. Thank you for submitting this. She also didn't give me a title, so I'm gonna call it Jen Did an Oopsie. The background. Many years ago, I worked as a personal loan advisor for a major bank. I worked in an inbound call centre that took calls from many of our partner programs. Think when your supermarket, home shopping group, football team, roadside recovery, etc. offer financial services. At the time of the story, I worked on a team that took calls for a partner that primarily sold car loans, often with a consolidation of the previous car loan into the new, longer term. This was before these things could be arranged and documents signed online, so everything was done through us on the phone. And then one of our bank's big selling points was that we would do all the consolidation for the customer and send the documents and a check for the remainder of the borrowed amount the next day. Customer would sign and check would be released. All good. On to the story. One fine morning, I get into work happy my month is going well, my targets are hit, etc. I sit down and log into the systems only for my team manager and the floor manager to pull me from my desk for a chat. I had no clue what's going on as I start asking questions about a loan I had arranged 2 days prior, and approved and arranged courier to deliver the check and documents next day as ever. I honestly didn't remember the loan. My monthly targets were in the millions and each loan was unsecured and a max of 25,000. But with prompting and my sales log, I was able to look it up for the managers and vaguely remember the customer. I'm looking at the information and I still can't think why I was in a management meeting about it. And then they tell me. The nightmare of every one of us working there. I had misheard the customer's previous loan account number, and somehow the customer and I had both missed the error. On the original call and when he signed the paperwork. It hadn't taken the customer that long to realise, however, that the check amount wasn't quite what I told him it would be, and when he checked his previous loan, he found that rather than the loan being cleared and the account closed, it was still very much there expecting him to keep on paying alongside the new loan. I was then told that as the customer still wanted the loan, and the consolidation, we had to void the loan and start again, so my customer had to go through everything again and had to wait an extra few days to get his new car. So far, a mess up, yes, but not anything to write home or stories about. No. The worst came when the managers reminded me that once a loan account had been paid and closed, there was nothing we could do to reverse that. That loan was now gone. The bank was not only out of the cost of the early repayment of the loan, about 8,000 I think, but the interest that would have been paid over the 4 years the loan had remaining. It was a 5-year loan, so the customer hadn't even stopped paying interest and started on the balance. But it also happened to have repayment insurance, the thing the bank actually made money on. The sale the bank actually wanted, and in this case was worth around 3,000 to 4,000. So all in all, that was well over £10,000 of the bank's money lost. I had never felt so sick to the stomach with panic and fear before. This was a big deal, and an error that should just never have been made, and it was mine. I thought for sure I was going to be escorted from the building by security. This was over 17 years ago. The error was more than I earned a year. To this day, I have no idea how I kept my job, let alone walked away with a verbal rather than a written warning and refresher training on consolidation systems. All I can think of was that my record was squeaky clean, and it's an error we all had nightmares about. There is a silver lining out there though. I had inadvertently played fairy godmother to some lucky person in the UK that day. They got to wake up one morning to a letter saying their personal loan account had been repaid and closed. A free car and a get out of debt free card of chance had been played for them just because there was one different digit between their account number and a guy who had decided they wanted a new car and to consolidate the loan. And I was an idiot. So, you're welcome whoever you are. I've always liked to imagine it went to someone deserving. I hope it did. And I also hope that one day I get a letter like that saying my mortgage has been paid off. That would be awesome. Lady yelled at me for transferring her to Colombia. Longish, so bear with me. I work at a call centre for a security company, and I got a call during my last 10 minutes of my shift, and got this middle-aged lady who started the call screaming at me. It took me 2 minutes to get her to calm down and explain her problem. She claimed she had a problem with her alarm, and when she called in to our tech support team, we transferred her to someone in Colombia. She kept yelling at me, saying she doesn't feel safe in her home giving her account information to someone outside the US, and that she's going to sleep at her sister's house because she doesn't know if drug dealers or traffickers could come to her house and slit her throat, and that she is an old disabled woman who lives alone and she's scared she's going to be murdered. I tried to assure that we are a local US-based company and that we do not outsource our tech support and that it may have been a mistake, But then she began ranting about how no one in the call center speaks English anymore and how she needed to speak to someone who isn't Asian or Indian. I told her I would figure out what was going on, and when I called over to talk to our tech support team, I spoke to a lovely tech support rep on the phone and explained the situation to her. It turns out she is Colombian and has an accent, but is a citizen who works in the US for our company. I felt so embarrassed telling her about the situation when it was her the woman was speaking with. When the customer called in and spoke to her on the phone, she thought she was speaking to someone in South America, and when she asked where she was from, the rep said Colombia, and the customer assumed she meant she was located in Colombia. I ended up apologising to the rep for the mix-up and tried to explain to the customer what happened, but she kept screaming, saying she was going to be murdered and that we were putting her in danger, and demanded to speak to my manager. I spent 40 minutes after my shift trying to explain what happened while she called me names and threatened to cancel, even put her on the line with the tech support rep, but she was convinced we had given her account and security information to dangerous South American drug dealers. I felt bad for the poor tech support lady who had to deal with this lady, but it made for an eventful night on the phone. Ugh, I had a call like that once. When I worked in mortgages, we had a team in the Philippines who answered basic mortgage questions, like if you call in and ask what your mortgage balance is, or what your next payment is, or stuff like that. Well, there was a period of time where these agents were notorious for passing over complaints disguised as customer queries. Like, the agent would call me and say the customer wants to do an application to change something on their mortgage. I would take the call, and then the customer would be confused and say something like, "No, I wanted to complain because blah blah blah." Well, anyway. While this was going on, if we felt the agent was being suspicious or potentially passing us a complaint disguised as something else, we would take their staff ID so we would be able to get in contact with them or their manager. So one day I get this call, and it's a lovely woman from the Philippines that I've spoken to many times before, and she is damn good at her job. She says that she has a customer on the line who has questions and wants to speak to me. I ask her what kind of questions the customer is asking, and she says she doesn't know, she just wants to speak to me. She sounds a bit nervous or panicked or something. She just sounds a bit jumpy. So internally I'm thinking, oh good, I get to spend the next hour on a complaint because you don't want to do it. So I say, fine. I ask for her staff ID and she transfers the call. What I get on the other end of the phone is the most racist woman. The first thing she did was ask me where I was from, and then went on a 5-minute tirade about how the person she was speaking to before couldn't speak English, and she was trying to get me to agree with her and stuff, like, oh yeah, that's terrible, I'm sorry you had to go through that or whatever. I went from annoyed that I'd most likely have to do a complaint taking this call, to feeling so enraged by this woman, to then feeling bad for the agent because God knows how long she had to put up with it. The worst thing is, this woman wanted something so simple, like just knowing her balance, but when she heard an accent, she just blew her lid and demanded to be transferred to someone else. Once I got off the phone with her, I left a note on her account for abusive behaviour. I also emailed the agent and apologised for not taking the call off her sooner, and if she ever gets in a situation like that again, to just tell us over the phone and we'll take it with no questions asked. She replied back saying thank you for that and for leaving the note on the woman's account. Even thinking back on that call, it still makes me so incredibly angry. There is no way $1,670 a year is $100 a month. Someone called in for car insurance on their vehicle. The annual rate for this vehicle was $1,670. The month before, they only ended up paying $100 for 1 month, as they transferred from the old car to the new car with 1 month left in the term, and $100 was the difference. They called for the renewal, and I quoted $1,670 for the year, which is $147 a month. He said no. He was told it was $100 a month. I said that was just because he transferred from the old car, and this is a new term with the new car. He agreed that it was $1,670 for the year, but insisted that the other insurance broker told him he could get it for $100 a month. I told him that if he was told that, to go there, as there was absolutely no way I could make $1,670 a year into $100 a month. That's actually terrible customer service. Why didn't the agent just add a few months onto the year to make it $100 a month? Pfft. No one cares about the customer anymore. Okay, so that's all for r/Tales from Call Centers. I really hope you did enjoy it. As always, if you do want to see more content like this, then please do subscribe. My Twitter, Discord, and Patreon links are in the description, and any support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!